right. There we go. So what I wanted to do today was, I thought first off, we just take a look at the Lavush because it's a nice, very quick summary. And then if we have time, the Aruch HaShulchan has some very good things to say about this. In particular, I thought we might start with the end of the Aruch HaShulchan, where he does some stuff we didn't spend as much time covering in class. And then maybe we'll go back. So we'll see. I'm getting ambitious now. Just to remind people, we are on Siman Lamed Bet in class. We're on Siman Lamed Bet from the Torah Shulchan Aruch, which is Kiddushim Bishtar, which is going to be our big question here. Okay, so maybe Yavni, you're Sarah didn't say anything to me yesterday if she's showing up today or not, so we won't wait for her. And I did, by the way, I left class early to go pick up Yara, and so I watched last night the rest of Shir that I missed, including the extra half an hour that you guys tacked onto it, discussing a day Kiddushin, and also like in a very kind of reminded me in a very tragic way. One of the Adim of Kiddushin from our wedding did die actually of COVID a couple of years ago. He was immunocompromised. That was a very sad thing, and that actually is a very relevant thing in our lives, right? It's like our marriage is not invalidated because he can no longer testify, Ari can no longer testify about that. But maybe we could dedicate this learning to him, Ariel Chaim Halevi. So okay, with that, Lavush Evan HaEzer Siman Lamed Bet, go for it.
כבר כתבתי בסימן כ"ו סעיף ד' תיאלפינן מקרא דאישה מתקדשת בשטר. Should I translate or?
Well, unless you have like anything burning about it, go for it. Okay. This is for your review, so.
כיצד כותב לה על הנייר או על החרס, אף על פי שאין בו שווה פרוטה, הרי את מקודשת לי, או אחד משאר לשונות הקידושין הנזכרים ונתנו לה בפני עדים. וצריך לכתוב אותו לשם האישה המתקדשת, ואם כתבו שלא לשמה, אינה מקודשת כמו בגט. דהתקדש הוויה... דהתקש הוויה ליציאה, ואינו כותבו אלא לדעתה, דאף על גב דבגט לא באינן מדעתה, היינו משום דגט איתה אפילו בעל כורכך, אבל קידושין, אינו יכול לקדשה בעל כוחה, אלא מדעתה. גם כתיבת השטר צריך להיות מדעתה, דהכי מקשינן הוויה ליציאה, מה יציאה באינן דעת מקנה, דהיינו הבעל שהוא מקנה את האישה, שתהיה פטורה ממנו. החינמי גבי קידושין באינן דעת מקנה, דהיינו האישה שהיא מקנה עצמה, שהיא מקנה עצמה לא בקידושין על ידי שטר זה. ואיקה מאן דאמר בגמרא, שחולק על זה ואומר דלא באינן מדעתה, דמקשינן הוויה לגמרי ליציאה, מה גט אין צריך לדעתה, אף הוויה אין צריך כתיבה לדעתה, ולא יתברר הלכתה כמן לפיכך אם כתבו שלא לדעתה וקידשה בו, הוויה ספק מקודשת.
Great.
Yeah.
Good. Any, I mean, it's pretty straightforward here.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's interesting, like, I don't know, the way it went through. I thought it seemed to be going through definitely on the side of Rav Papa and Rav Sharve, and then he hedged and went for the Safek.
Exactly. And he's like, well, it's Safek because we've got, was it Rav and Ravina on the other side?
Yeah, which is sort of a funny, like, Ika Manda Amar, like Rav and Ravina would get named, but okay.
That's small. It's an interesting question for me always with these codes, like when do they name people, when don't they? But I don't know, it could be as crazy as they're writing it all from memory and they sometimes can't remember. I don't know. It's I don't know. I made that up, so I have no clue. But the other interesting thing, I just wanted to go back. Did he actually say anything about what you say, or if you have to say anything here?
He didn't say. He said you write it. Yeah, he didn't say anything about saying anything.
Yeah, right. Which we saw was kind of an interesting discussion of like, do you have to say anything? or not. And you've already written it in the shtar. But okay, maybe I'll do bet, and then you can do.
And he also brings in like a sort of different reason about the difference between the kiddushin and the get.
Great.
That we didn't discuss much, and he
No.
mentions that as the first thing, and then gives the Gemara's actual reasoning.
Yeah, it's actual svara, right? It's just like, well, we know that you need her dot for kiddushin, right? And not forget, and therefore, it's like that was just the general rules of these things. But good. Okay. Sif bet. Im kitchabis shtar shepasula kadesh bo b'torat shtar. So for whatever reason, right, he's given already some reasons why a shtar might be pasul, right? Didn't write it lishma. Let's say, right? Shamina teniyar im yesh bo shavei pruta harezo mekudeshet v'im ein bo shavei pruta harezo safek mekudeshet the shema shavei pruta b'makom acher. I was really upset with him because I was hoping he would give his reason why. Because this is like the big question that we've had is like, why do the chachamim say that that kesef works there? What's going on? And kinyan kesef. So, which we'll see. I think the Aruch HaShulchan, I think I brought a piece where he speculates about it, if I remember correctly. So maybe we'll get that. Okay, Sif Gimel, go for it.
ואם היא קטנה או נערה ומקדשה בשטר על ידי אביה, כותב ביתך מקודשת לי.
Yeah.
Which is the language in the Gemara.
I just want to say, it's bitcha.
Bitcha, sorry, bitcha.
Everyone did this in class, and it drove me up the wall. And I'm gonna.
Every time I read it, I corrected myself. Yeah,
it wasn't just you; it was everybody. And I was like, you're writing to the father, right? It's your daughter. Yeah. Anyway, I know it is one of those interesting things in Hebrew when we've been operating in the world all of a sudden of feminine, nouns and verbs and pronouns, and so now we're confused. So it's but good. This was the original case in the Gemara, right? The Gemara said, Bishtar Ketzad, and it started with this actual case, right? It didn't start with the case of an adult woman. Okay. Sif Daled. Yesh mi shomer shesarich sheskir shemot haish veisha bishtar kiddushin.
Is there any significance to that? To the fact that, like, for like the example, the like first, the way it's discussed in the Gemara, in this case, it's clearly for minor, and in the case of kesef, it's
that's a great question. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody say it so far. They've definitely treated that as like a secondary case. You can see it here. It's relegated to Sif Gimel, right?
Right.
It's a good question. You could have, it's an interesting one. You could imagine that, this is the way maybe it was done generally with minors, and kesef was reserved for. I'm trying to remember, does the Gemara even bring up the other case, or is it Rashi who says it? I can't recall anymore. Like if it's an adult woman, 12 and a half or whatever, it's
I think they just sort of do it. I don't remember.
It's a really good question, I think. So all right. V'yesh mishu omer shetzarich she'ezkir shemot ha'ish ve'isha b'shtar kiddushin keshem shetzarich la'azkiram beget. Right. This is we're going to start to see the parallels here. He's like that maybe that has a parallel. All right. Tavo al davar hamechubar lekarka. This is from the Ramah. Pasul kumo get. The Ramah actually said, remember, he hedged on this. He said yesh omrim v'yesh omrim on that piece. V'im ktavo l'isrei hana'a yesh omrim shu pasul v'yesh machshirim sheikar hu haktav. Right. This is a big question that we've seen too, right? Something that's pasul is the car, are the letters floating in the air or not? All right. All right. The comment rather, sorry, Siman such and such. This is going to be a big case, right? There's a derabanan requirement that you have to write the zman on a get, because you have to know when the couple actually get divorced, so like if they slept together in between or so forth or afterwards, okay. You're looking at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah, it's fine. What is the issue of this? Anyway, whatever.
Yeah. So I'm not an expert, so I'll just say that's as much as I know. It's detam detzrichim lichtov zman beget sheet ba'er lekaman sif kaf kuf kaf zayin sif aleph lo sheach bekiddushin. So like it's just not relevant here. All right. I think the Aruch HaShulchan will explain it a little bit better. Natam lashtar kiddushin. Ve'amar la almanat she'aniyar sheli eina mekudeshet. She'otiot below niyar porchot be'avir ve'inam klum. Right. There's a right. So he's got to give her the shtar at the end of the day. I'm actually not convinced, by the way, of the thing of this says therefore it can't be done by email. Because email, maybe they're not Porchlep Be'avir. Maybe you could argue, yes, they are, but that there it's like you have a copy of it on a screen. You can come and go, but you can always recall it, this kind of thing. And so I don't know if it's about the fact that she needs to own the paper or about the fact that she just always needs to have access to this document, kind of thing. I started looking, I couldn't find anybody who said anything about it. So it's and I don't even know, it's like it's a very small slice of time of history of psak, right, where we'd even be able to deal with that. So okay. But be'avir ve'inam klum. Okay.
Yeah, the fact that you could always access it, I don't know if that could be relevant, because you can even give it to her. It's okay if you give it to her almanat that she returns it to you, the paper to you, as long as she gets possession of the paper in that moment.
At any point. That's a great point. Okay, so maybe you're right. So maybe it's just yeah. Ktavan b'ktav yado ve'in alav aid mekudeshet misafek. Right, this is the case that was brought up in the Ramah that's going to drive everybody crazy. Of that maybe just his ktav yad acts at least as Eidei Chatima, and we're going to have a whole thing. Does that count as what about Eidei Mesira and all that, right? But he's just going to, Lavush doesn't go into it. He just says misafek, end of story. So, all right. We're going to initially, I'm looking at the time. We're doing pretty well, but I want to actually kind of go out of order here. So let's start with see if you had bet, which is actually the top of page 3 in the Aruch HaShulchan. Because this is some of the issues that we didn't cover as well. And then maybe if we have time, we'll come back. So go for it.
זמן אין צריך לכתוב בשטר קידושין, דגם בגט כשר מן התורה, דגם בגט כשר מן התורה בלא זמן, ורק חכמים תיקנו לכתוב זמן בגט. ובקידושין לא תיקנו, מפני שרוב בני אדם מקדשים בכסף. לפיכך, גם מי שמקדש בשטר לא תיקנו. ועוד עיקר הטעם שתיקנו זמן בגט, הוא מפני תקנת זנות, כמו שכתוב בסימן קכ"ז, ובקידושין לא שייך זה דתמחקנו, דתמחקנו ונעמידנה בחזקת פנויה, אבל בגט לא תמחוק, דהרי נעמידנה בחזקת אשת איש, ועל ידי הזמן יתוודא מתי זינתה, אבל לא בקידושין.
Yeah, I forget the whole question is right. If the get, we don't know when it happened, she stays in the chazaka of being married, and that's a problem, right? She could sleep with somebody else, sleep with her husband again, right? All sorts of issues there. Right. And whereas
if she sleeps with someone else before the wedding, she's in the chazaka of being a pnuya.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's probably not a problem there in the same way. And also the fascinating thing of like, they didn't, because this is a rare occurrence, they didn't make a takana about it, because usually you just do it with kesef, right?
Yeah.
Think about it, the only way to get divorced is there's no other way except for with shtar, right? It's the only possibility. You could, there's only 2 ways that a wife and husband separate. One is divorce and one is death. So, right, as the Mishnah tells us. So, so that was kind of interesting. He said that, we threw that in. Okay, Sifyud Gimel. Ve'af im kidesh bishtar pasul kegon shektavo shelo lishma or sha'ar pasul mikol makom shamina taniyar im yesh bo shave pruta mekudeshet keshekidsha bifnei edim v'im lav mekudeshet misafek shema shave pruta b'makom acher. Okay, so we've seen this so far. Ve'af al gav shekidsha bishtar she'amar ani mekad sheikh bishtar zeh mikol makom kol zman shelo amar Any mekadsha b'torat mamon, rak b'torat shtar. All right. Yesh lomar b'kavanato gam kiddushay kesef. All right. In other words, as long as he doesn't say, "I'm only doing this with shtar, I'm not doing this with kesef," we also think that his kavanah is kesef. All right. V'achi kamar ani mekadshech b'shtar zeh b'torat kesef. Right. I'm using this shtar for kesef. Right. Kamo imomer ani mekadesh mekadshech b'tabat zeh. I mean, as if he said to me, as if he said, it's like the tabat with this tabat, right? All right, and with our lehedya, midivrei poskim, dekeshiyesh bo shave pruta mekudeshet kiddushay vadai mitorat kesef, right? This is a full-on kiddushin, Ve'amrinan tedata nami aniyara, right? And she's also thinking about the piece of paper. She's not thinking about right. This is her dot he brings into this, right?
Yes, finally.
Exactly. So it only took a few thousand years, but the Aruch Shulchan comes in and he clarifies that for us. He's going to claim v'chein mashrim v'shas, v'chein mifrash v'Yerushalmi, v'Evio Harif Zal, v'Arkama v'Arambam. To me, v'Arambam hishmit kol zeh v'lo yadati lama, right? V'ulai shemifaresh davka im kitcha b'torat kesef, right? Maybe the Rambam thinks only if he does it with the Torat kesef, like as kesef. Aval lo mashma ken, right? But tzarich iyun, right? Umikol makom nireli dim hi ohu omrim shelo hayad datam klal likadesh beniyar. I love this because he actually brings in what do they say, and either one of them says I never, I wasn't doing it with the paper, right? Mi Torat kesef ein ze ele kiddushay safek afilim hu shave pruta, right? So ve'ulai harambam sfirale desarich l'shoalam v'nemanim kishomrim shelo hayad datam aniyar elim ken omrim shayad datam aniyar elim ken omrim shaya datam aniyar v'im ken ein shum chidush bazeh v'lachen hishmito. So maybe why did the Rambam leave it out? Because it's like if they said that, if either one of them said I wasn't planning on doing this kesef, it doesn't count, and if they said it's kesef, and so like what's the chidush, and therefore the Rambam didn't need to write it as a halacha. And this seif I loved when I read it. I was just like going crazy. I was like, this answers so many questions that we've had. Yeah. So this is the one thing I wish, he doesn't put citations for his sources for some of this stuff. And I really wish I knew, did he make this up himself? Did he get it somewhere and so forth? So, okay, Yud Daled.
קידשה בשטר ואמר לה, הרי את מקודשת לי בשטר זה, והנייר שלי אינה מקודשת, דנמצאו האותיות פורחות באוויר, ולא נתן לה כלום, ובעינן שימסור לה השטר כמו בגט, דאינו כלום בקהי גבנה, כמו שכתוב בסימן קמ"ג, וכן אם אמר לה על מנת שהנייר שלי פסק רבינו הרמה דאינה מקודשת, ויש מי שאומר דעל כל פנים הווה ספק קידושים דכיוון דאמר על מנת אינו שיעור בהשטר אלא תנאי, והווה לתנאי ומעשה בדבר אחד, וכל תנאי ומעשה בדבר אחד, התנאי בטל. והמעשה קיים.
Yeah. So, because he gave it to her, right?
Yeah.
And so the tnai is no good at that point. So, but I don't know who Aleph Mem is, but
Aleph Mem. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
אבל מדברי רבינו הרמה בסימן ל"ח סעיף ד' מוכח דלא סביר עלי דין זה, עיין שם, וכך כתב שם הגר"א
סעיף קטן ה',
דלא חש לה רק לחומר בעלמא, ובשם
probably, yeah.
ובשם יתבאר בסייעתא דשמיא, ואם אמר לה על מנת שתחזיר לי את הנייר, בגט מהני כמו שכתוב בסימן קמ"ג, ובקידושין נראה נמי דמהני, דמתנה על מנת להחזיר שמה מתנה, ואף על גב דבקידושי כסף נתבאר בסימן קט, דלא מהני עיין שם, מכל מקום בקידושי שטר שעיקר הקידושין אינו בשיווי הנייר.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be shivui, but
מהני דה האותיות אינם פורחות באוויר דלזמן הקידושים הנייר שלה, ושם יתבאר בסייעתא דשמיא.
So as long as she has some possession over the thing, it's fine, right, for some time, at the time of giving at least. So, but,
right.
Okay, one more, and then we can go back. Gazal niyar v'chatav alav shtar kiddushin v'kidesh bo et isha. I know this was interesting, so I brought it, but Ve'abelima adayin lo nijashu, right? So this is in order to, when you steal something before the Baal has yeush, has despair over getting it back, right? I'm sure you know this, right? It doesn't transfer possession. Once there's yeush, it transfers possession, and the robber owns the thing now. Right? I still owe the guy because I stole it from him, but I own the item at this point.
That's relevant for Hana'ah.
Yeah. Well, so near the inam kiddush. Yeah, normally exactly. It would be like relevant. Am I giving you something that I actually own or not? Right. So near the inam kiddushe vadai. The kivanshen the niyar ino shela lo adif mikishomer haniyar sheli. Right. So in other words, he never owned the niyar, so he never had it to give to her. So it's not her niyar, right? And it's the same case. All right. The ina mikudeshet aval yesh lomar de kivan de niyar nishtane al yedei aktiva. That once you write on it, this is the other thing. The other thing that can give you possession is if you change the thing, right? If I take something and make it into something else. So maybe by writing on this blank piece of paper, I've now made it into something else. Hare kna'o, therefore you've purchased it, bishinoi, by changing it. V'yachzir lo damim, right? You owe the guy money, right? V'niyar shilo, but you now own this niyar. V'avi kiddushin gimurim, all right, b'tzarichion. So, okay. De'im hu katav shiachol lit machek havi shinuya chozel lebriato velo kana, right? Because it could be, what if you write it in, you can scratch it off and make it a blank piece of paper again, and then it's not actually a shinui. So, okay. Over your idea, Siman, was it berarnu de ein shtei nashim mitkadshot b'shtar echad kimo begitin raya brura lezeh migitin, right? All right, and so forth. So you can't use one. You can't marry two women with one star. That's just like you can't divorce two women with one star. So
yeah, and that is being included in this seif because it's similar question of them being able to take possession of it, or
it's a great question. I have no clue why it's here.
Sure.
Yeah, it's but just in case you wanted to try and get away with that, don't do it. So I know Yavni, you were thinking about it, but okay. So with that, let's go back to the end of page 1 here of Seif Hey in the Aruch HaShulchan.
Katav Rabbeinu Rama. Who was? I was wondering who the Otiot Porchot. That was the Rama quoted from who? Where does that idea come from? That was the.
The first place I remember seeing was either Chalkat Mechokek or the Beit Shmuel, I think, but it may have been earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, one of them cites it, and I can kind of picture where it was, but I can't remember which daf it was. I can't tell you if it was the inside or outside of the page. So.
Cites it from someone else though, like that.
I don't remember if they cited it from someone else or not. That's a great question. So, all right,
it's a great phrase.
It is. Well, in fairness, right? It's Hanina ben Trajan, right? Isn't that his? When he gets killed, right? He's got they wrap him he's wrapped in a Sefer Torah, and he's got chest, and they students say, "What do you see?" And he says, "Right, the Torah is burning, but the otiot perchot be'avir."
Yeah, I did not make that connection.
Yeah, that's
what is that? How does that in that context?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like you're burning the Torah if you give a star for kiddushin without actually giving it. I don't know.
But that's supposed to be like a positive thing that they're right? They're surviving in spite. I mean, in a very negative context.
Yeah, I mean, is it or is it not? I've never known how to understand this story. Or is it a sense of like the letters have like without the foundation of both the rabbis / the parchment, right? Which of course are wrapped one in the other. It's like a very nicely metaphorical story. Like the Torah is nothing. It's just floating letters. And
wow. Okay. Yeah. That this use of that phrase definitely reinforces that idea.
Yeah, I don't know. The way I was originally taught it was the way you're understanding it. It's like, look, the Torah survives even if we burn it. But I don't know.
Right. No, but I think you're right. There's definitely
Yeah, it is a tragic story. So all right, with that, okay.
The marriage is no good.
Yeah.
Israel and God.
Yeah. Also, and that's the other thing. Yeah, it's a great point. I never even thought about how deep that goes, right? Because of the whole thing that did you see the thing from Dvarim Rabbah that
I didn't read through it yet. I
Oh,
need to, yeah.
but generally we do see it's like not clear what kind of document it is. The Torah is either the
Right.
Shtar Tanaim or the Shtar Kiddushin or the Ketubah, right? Of the marriage between God and Israel.
Right.
And so that whole thing has a marriage metaphor going there, right? It's like the Torah doesn't serve, the Shtar doesn't survive.
Right. So with the Chalakat Mochokek, that could be like a statement of like, God, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, you're not this.
So
Wow.
there's a shear right there for, I don't know, choose your time. It's Tisha B'Av, Yom Kippur, Shavuot. I don't know. It can be for anything. It's all good. So, all right. Sif Hey.
כתב רבנו הרמה, אם כתבו בכתב ידו ואין עליו עד, מקודשת מספק, עד כאן לשונו, ורוצה לומר, אף אם מסרו לו בינו לבינה, דלקה לו לא עדי חתימה ולא עדי מסירה, והספק הוא דאף על גב, דבגיטין וקידושין, אי אפשר להיות בלא עדים, דאין דבר שבערווה פחות משניים, מכל מקום, קיימלן דגט שכתב בכתב ידו, ואין עליו עדים, וגם לא מסרו בפני עדים דמדאורייתא, הווה גט, ואם נישאת הוולד כשר, דמפני שהתורה תלתה בכתיבתו, כדכתיב וכתב לה ספר כריתות, לכן כשר בכתב ידו מן התורה. ולכן יש אומרים גם בקידושין, הדין כן, ואף אגב דבזה לא דמי לגט, דגט נכתב גם שלא ברצונה, ולכן תלוי העיקר בכתיבת הבעל, מה שאין כן בקידושין, זה צריך גם רצון שלה. מכל מקום, כיוון דשטר קידושין, ילפינן מגט, הדין כמו בגט. ויש חולקין בזה, ואף גם בגט, הגט פסול מדרבנן, ולא תנסה בו, כמו שכתוב בסימן קל"ד, וכל שכן בקידושין, צריכה קידושין אחרים, מיהו בקידושין כאלו מקודשת מספק וצריכה גט.
Yeah, he said a lot there.
Yeah, and he brought in the question of like, well, but what about the needing her will? Like, why are we learning from one? Yeah.
Which he says maybe it is the case that this is a unique thing because the Torah connects us to get, but maybe. So that's
this whole thing of saying it's a get midoraita is definitely a choice they're making. Like, just because it says v'katav la sefer chitut doesn't mean like, I guess maybe, I don't know. Like, that just means that, yeah, I guess that's enough.
Yeah. So, but it is very much, I mean, Derabanan, it doesn't, as we've seen it doesn't work. So, which is an important piece of this whole thing. So,
right.
But okay. He's going to keep going. V'yesh leva'er b'din zeh, d'hinei zehu vadai, d'zeh shifta Torah beget ktivat yado le'edim. So the Torah compares those two things, or puts them equally. Zehu le'edei chatima, right? V'amrat Torah ktivato yafeh kemo ktivat edim. All right. Aval ein zeh inyan le'edei mesira, right? That's not mesira. Umimela de'ein nafkamina b'din zeh d'mima nafshach. Right, so therefore it makes no difference because it's going to be a my nafshach argument, which either way it's not going to work. Even though hayu bazeh edei mesira, leman desvirle de below edei mesira pasul, goshikatavti b'seif gimel, gam bazeh pasul, right? Afilu nechshavu ke'edei chatima. Ve'ein ze el, so okay, that's one. Ve'ein ze el leman desvirle de kasher below edei mesira. All right, ve'chevan delidan have safek, right? Because mimay nafshach have safek kiddushim. V'ika edei mesira, pshita de bechol inyan kasher, right? So if there's edei mesira and you hold that you only need edei mesira, that works. But we already knew that, right? It doesn't solve anything. If we think that you only need edei chatima, well, then we have a safek anyway, right? It's not so clear that this works k'tav yad. And if you think that you need edei mesira and you don't have any, well, too bad. That doesn't work anyway. So who cares if it makes up for edei chatima? Okay. V'lachen Right? Dikdek Rabbeinu Rama lichtov bazeh dehave safek kiddushin v'lo katavti yesharim kasher v'yesharim depasul. Right? He doesn't say yesharim kasher yesharim depasul. He says it's just safek. Why? Deafilu la yesharim dekasher ein bazeh rak safek kiddushin. Even the people who think that it works as a day chatima, there's still a safek because maybe you still need a day misira at the end of the day. So kevan delek a day misira. Ve'ein nafkamina bedin zeh rak delo nema de'ein bekiddushin ke'elo af safek. Right? The safek yesh aval liot vadai kiddushin eino afilu l'deah hamachsheret bektav yado. So this is not. Nobody actually thinks that it's kasher. The best you can think is that it's safek kiddushin at the end of the day. So, all right. Ulafi. Oh, you're up.
ולפי זה יש מי שרוצה לומר דבקידושין כאלו הווה ספק ספקה, ספק אם הלכה כמאן דסביר על ידי כתב יד, הווה ככתב ידי עדים, ואם תרצה לומר דהווה ספק אם הלכה כמאן דאמר דעדי חתימה, מהני בלא עדי מסירה. והוא ספק ספקה, המתהפך גם כן ספק אם די בעדי חתימה. ואם תרצה לומר שדי ספק אם כתב יד הווה כעדים, והווה ספק ספקה להכשר.
Do you know this idea of safek sfeka hamitapech?
No, I was going to ask, what is that?
Yeah, this is one of the rules in that shach, I believe. It may be other places too. I think it might be in the Gemara, from what I call it. So sfek sveka has to be reversible. It has to be like when you say, there's safek x and safek y. So if x is a safek, then y, then even if x is not a safek, then y could be. You have to be able to go the other way as well. So the order doesn't matter. Essentially, it's a commutative property of safek. Yeah.
Well, okay, wait. So I want to reread that, if that's okay. לפי זה יש מי שרוצה לומר בקידושין כאילו הווה ספק ספק. ספק אם הלכה כמאן דסביר על ידי כתב יד, הווה כתב ידי עדים, ואם תרצה לומר דהווה ספק אם הלכה כמאן דאמר דעדי חתימה, מהני בלא עדי מסירה. Okay. So that's saying so that you have this fake, if the ktav yad is like the edim chatima, and then how is the order relevant here? How does it work?
So there's a fake that whether or not there's the ktav yad works, and even if the ktav yad works, there's a fake whether or not you can get away with that idea misira, right? And going the other way, right?
Even if the ktav yad works, maybe you also need the
no. And the other way, it's a safek whether or not only having edei chatima works, and even if only having edei chatima works, it's not even clear that this works for edei chatima.
Right, okay.
Yeah, the way that this rate, if I understand correctly, safek sfeka mitapech, what it does is it makes sure the two sfekot are not coupled at all. There's not a function of each other.
Right.
So it's actually, I think, a very clever way to solve this of what sfek sveka. It's only one of many things in that shach, which I will also admit I tried to sit and read once and I never did finish. And for anybody who's very interested, the Be'er Hatev is a very short summary of it, but it's part of it is, if I remember correctly, the shach, it's like his rules are long part of it is proving himself is like half of what he spends his time on, and what you can and can't say, and that's where he gets really into the weeds, but on it. And it is a very long piece it's like in Kuf Yud Aleph, I think, Kuf Yud Bet in your idea. So now people are going to watch this and think I'm an idiot. I don't remember where it is, but it's somewhere around there. So, all right, Tov, keep going.
Okay, where was I? והווה ספק ספקה להכשר. ולי נראה דאין זה ספק ספקה ולא דמי לכל הספק ספקה שהספק הוא בעיקר ולא דמי לכל הספק ספקה שהספק הוא בעיקר המעשה, שמא היה כן או כן, ואם תרצה לומר כן, שמא גם בקהי גבנה, כשר. אבל הכה המעשה מבוררת אצלנו, והספקות הם על הדין. אם כן, כשבאנו לדון על זו האישה, הווה חד ספק, אם היא פנויה או אשת איש. ומה לי ספק זה או ספק זה, והווה ספקה משם אחד, ולכן עיקר כרבנו הרמה שזהו ספק קידושין.
Maybe play that out because I think it's kind of important. And I
Yeah,
don't think
so he says he doesn't buy that it's a fake sfeka because a normal fake sfeka, every fake sfeka is a case where we're not sure about the. Is that what you're asking me to do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great.
Yeah. Every fake sfeka is a case where we're unsure about some facts of the case, and then there's an additional safek on it. Even if that's the case, maybe it doesn't apply anyway. Whereas this is two sfekot on the deen, and so then we really only have two sfekot on what the halacha is, and so then about in the case we really only have one safek if she is pnuya or if she is a shetish.
Exactly. So
I didn't quite understand in the last line. Sfeka mishem achad.
It's like one topic. It's one safek.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like something like that. It's and so therefore it's really just a safek and not sfeka. So yeah, it's interesting because right, I need to Rav Ovadia Yosef uses sfeka where both cases are from the dean, right? All the time, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's like if you rule like the Rambam, well, like if some people might say you rule like the Ravad, but even if you do rule like the Rambam, some people say the Rambam means this, and some people say or only applies in this case, and some people say, and he pulls that off a lot, and it seems like the Aruch HaShulchan doesn't like that move. He doesn't know if Rav Ovadia Yosef comes later, of being anachronistic.
Right.
But yeah, although it does seem to say that he'd be okay with one of the sfekot being from the dean, right?
Yeah, that's what it means.
Yeah, but just not both of them, I think, is his problem. And
right.
One of them has to be the Maaseh. So,
right.
Okay. I'll do the last one. We've got 5 minutes. Im balafaninu shtar kiddushin. All right. Ktuv b'ktav yad. Ve'eno yadua im haya shamei de mesira. Im lav. Lo arminan devadai naseh kilchato. Vayu shamei de mesira. Right. Which we might have said. We've had this idea that maybe just assume the mesira happened with Edim, right? We can't in this case. Right? Because you could just go by chazaka. She started out as pnuya. She still has a chazaka as pnuya. All right. V'tiave pnuya le'adea poselet b'kiddushin b'ktav yad. All right. Because and either way, even if there were a day mesira, because it didn't work anyway. So it's or if there were, then it would. But you just say there weren't. All right. Elahi safek. All right. Safek. Or I figured out what this was before. And I can't remember. Elahi safek.
Nice. Eshet ish.
Eshet, thank you. Yes, thank you. He's safek eshet ish. V'kiddushin psuli midirabanan. Okay. Ad shitbarer shehaya shamei de mesira. Okay. So she does sit in this kind of liminal space where it's possible she's married. Aval im balafaninu shtar kiddushin chatum beedim amrinan devadai hayu sham game de mesira v'hi eshet ish lechol hadeot v'lo amrinan deshem lo hayu sham de mesira upasul leman desfirle de pasul below de mesira. All right. V'im kabla kiddushin gam me'acher tzricha get mishnehem. Degam beget kasher b'chai gavne kamoshe katav b'siman, etc., etc. So if there were a day chatima, we assume there were a day mesira. If it was just katav yad, we don't assume that, but she becomes safek eshet ish. So okay, that's it. That's all I've got. So
is it notable that he's like in this case he's sort of spelling things out more, like he's safek eshet ish ve'kiddushin psulin midrabanan, as opposed to just saying have a safek kiddushin?
Yeah, I was really interested that he goes into more detail. I wasn't sure why. So it's not being an expert in the Aruch HaShulchan, maybe one day, but because he is a very good good posek. So yeah. I also it's really interesting about whether or not it'd be interesting looking into this. Is this actually a case that anybody's seen in their world, right? Is anybody doing kiddushin b'shtar? So I don't know. It sounds like not. He even made a comment, right? He said like there was no
Right.
a Chazara on the time because of that, because that's not how most people do it. So I don't know. I don't know if it's being done at all or not being done and so forth. So
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah. All right. Well, Yavni, you have a great
Good.
Shabbos.
You
And
do. Shabbat shalom.
yeah, and I will see you Sunday we have
Honey. Yeah, well,
Sunday we
are you
have
making it?
friend time.
Yes.
But, good. I think I should be there. So I'm looking
Great.
forward to it. So
Yeah.
all right. Cool too.